The charges list for the Donald are out, and it appears that he's being charged for... Wait, not an insurrection? Well, we don't have the actual official transcript yet, but this is just what's coming in the letter for this, so we'll talk about this. And the propaganda that's putting it out, and the Daily Wire actually confirming what the propaganda puts out. So we will go over that, what's happening there, and what we do with this. 2 IRS whistleblowers testify in front of Congress today over the differential treatment of Hunter Biden in the DOJ. And, well, just like a good plant, Marjorie Taylor Greene takes the focus away from tax fraud, tax crimes, and the fact that the DOJ is looking into possibly finding a way to differentially treat Hunter Biden, and instead makes it all about Hunter Biden's penis. So we'll go over some of that. Viewer discretion is advised, by the way. Everything is censored, but it's still something that you really don't want to see. A federal judge clarifies that Trump was found to have raped E. Jean Carroll in the game of language semantics. And Lauren Boebert throws away a pin honoring a school shooting victim, with the left jumping up and down on themselves to be the first ones to report it. It's going to be all of this and more. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. There's like not a bad song on this playlist. There are a couple that I guess I don't like as much, but there really is not. I'm very, very impressed with everything that's on here. But we're not here to talk about the music tonight. We're here to talk about people who are facing the music. And we've got a lot more than what I talked about in the cold open. By the way, Disney is selling off a major swath of the IPs that it's acquired over the years, which means I think the big one that I'm kind of excited for at this point is number one. Well, 2. Number 1, of course, you guys know that Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie ever. Not just my favorite Star Wars movie, but my favorite movie ever. But that does mean that I am myself a very, very, very big Star Wars fan, which, if they're selling back to Lucasfilms, number 1, will we get a actual re-record and redo of episodes 7, 8, and 9 that actually fit the story? Oh yeah, no, these were not canon. These were Disney. We're not going to call these actual official canon anymore. And the big one for me, will we actually get a decent Mandalorian season or a decent Mandalorian storyline? Some things to think about. I will say some of the good things about some of this stuff here. I do like Season 1 and Season 2 of The Mandalorian, obviously, but I will give credit where credit's due on Star Wars. I am a very, 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 very big fan of how Season 7 Clone Wars came out. What was done there, how it was done, and really, honestly, that was a masterpiece. I don't understand how they got everything else so wrong when they did that so perfectly. But we're not going to talk about my love for Star Wars right now. We'll do that on another stream at some point here. But we've got a ton to go over here today. Part of the reason I'm late, I did get out of work late today. A lot of calls came in right as I was getting ready to leave. And then, well, we've got a mountain of stuff on the stack today as well. So let's get into it. Let's get started. Let's get some friends in here. Tell at least one person about this every day, and we'll see if we can't grow to big numbers. Word of mouth is the only way that we can grow against YouTube's algorithms, so please help out if you like what you see. And also, the more chatter that you guys do, the more that we are featured on the front page, so don't be afraid to tell us how we feel. I'll react to some of the stuff live as we go. Some, obviously, because of YouTube censorship and algorithms, we cannot do, but I will react to some of this live. And as always, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, Silent Caster, Clown World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine, and Overruled with KTZed. Go check out all that great programming as we aim to bring you a better news experience and culture experience as well. From the common man, for the common man, that's right. Don't get your news from people who hate you, who wear suits that cost more than your house. Get your news from people who are just like you. And with that, we're going to get right into it. We're going to start with our finance today. I hope we fly right along with this one. Hey, look, that's me. And let's get started. We're going to start with the Dow today. The Dow is up 35,061 US. I'm sorry, this is not US dollars. I fall into that trap all the time because of the way I read the Bitcoin. 35,061 points. That is up 109.28 points, or 0.31% on the day. It was a modest gain throughout the day today, but this is the 8th straight day in a row. And yes, that is a crest of that 35,000 mark, giving the Biden admin a new 52-week high on the Dow, all the way up to 35 to 34.05. So a lot of people are starting to celebrate this and see where this goes. Looking in at your Bitcoin, which had a roller coaster day on trading from 6 p.m. last night until now. It rose overnight before falling back down and then kind of just bouncing around and staying. Now, it is up ever so slightly. Where it settled when I was looking at this happened to be just about where it was 24 hours prior, so it is at 29,867 US dollars and 70 US cents per coin. That is up $3.40 per coin. 0.01% on the day. So that is what we have on the Bitcoin. Your gas prices in Madison took another wild swing upwards today. We had some reprieve for a day and it is gone and then some. 340 the average across the Madison area, with an outlier 316, but everybody else seeming to be right directly at the 340 mark. Even as we zoom out and see, we've got a 330 entering the isthmus. The 316 on the isthmus that didn't move forever and ever is up to 320 at this point. So your gas prices appear that they are going to be going up. Ours are. And we look at the same market every day to see where the gas prices compare. These are not your local listings. Check your local listings to see what your local gas prices are and see if they fit into the pattern that we see coming out of the Madison area. Let's grab our finance report on the day. From CNBC, Dow jumps 100 points for its 8th straight winning day, a first since 2019, from Brian Evans and Sarah Min. Stocks rose on Wednesday as corporate earnings season continued, with the Dow registering its longest winning streak in nearly 4 years. The Dow traded 109.28 points higher, or 0.31%, to close at 35,061.21. The S&P climbed 0.24 to 45,65.72, while the Nasdaq added 0.03 to finish the session at 14,358.02. The Dow notched its 8th straight day of gains, its longest winning streak since September 2019. Goldman Sachs reported a miss on profit and beat on revenue on Wednesday. Tied to losses in real estate as well as Green Sky, Goldman had previously warned investors that the quarter would likely yield lackluster results. Shares added nearly 1% elsewhere. Shares of U.S. Bancorp and J.B. Hunt popped about 6.5% and 3.7% respectively. Other companies, such as Netflix, Tesla, IBM, and United Airlines, will post earnings after the close. Thus far, the second quarter earnings season is off to a strong start. Of the companies in the S&P that have reported results, 78% have exceeded expectations. According to FactSet data, for many investors, the recent streak of gains bolsters the case for a soft landing scenario. It's an outlook that has gained traction after last week's encouraging inflation data, Meanwhile, we still have hundreds of people being laid off every single day. Bank earnings are better than feared and pushing the episodic crisis from the spring further into the rearview mirror, and thus far continue to trade like a soft landing will occur, said George Catrambone, head of fixed income and trading at DWS Group. The commentary from CEOs mirrors what the retail sales control group told us on today, which is spending is largely intact, despite some credit normalization. Carvana shares climbed 40% after the used car retailer secured a deal to reduce roughly $1.2 billion in debt. The online auto retailer posted its quarterly. Hey, I'm going to talk like Biden for the rest of the episode. Quarterly here. The results on Wednesday. No, we're not going to do that. Posted its quarterly earnings results on Wednesday, having moved the date of its report up from August 3rd. So that is what we see from the markets. Our layoffs report today comes from U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank imposes mortgage layoffs. From Flavia Furlan Nunez. Minneapolis based U.S. Bank, the fourth largest U.S. mortgage lender, is laying off staffers in its mortgage division this week, as a spokesperson confirmed on Tuesday. The announcement follows a decline in mortgage originations in the first quarter of 2023. The second quarter earnings will be released on Wednesday morning. The current jobs cuts also come amid rumors that depository lenders would see changes to their residential mortgage capital requirements under the Basel III regulations. At U.S. Bank, we make decisions that position us well for today's market and in the future, a spokesperson told Housing Wire. As a result, we've made the difficult decision to reduce resources in certain roles aligned to areas of the business that continue to slow while investing in others where we see growth potential. The spokesperson did not provide further details, such as the number of employees affected. Inside Mortgage Finance first reported the news of the layoffs. U.S. Bank, owned by U.S. Bank Corp., was number 4 among mortgage originators in the U.S. in the first quarter of 2023, according to IMF estimates. However, mortgage volume has been in a free fall. The bank amid surging rates. The bank's total mortgage origination volume reached $9.6 billion from January to March, down 41.7% year over year. The bank tries to maintain a balanced portfolio between retail and corresponding lending. From January to March, the bank originated a $4.47 billion volume in the retail channel and a $5.8 billion through the correspondence channel per IMF estimates. So this is really telling me that we have a healthy economy. Really, honestly, people are running out and buying houses everywhere because our economy is, oh, wait, no, they're laying off mortgage originators. Weird. But we'll see what's happening with that. We're going to start our news for the day talking about the charges. But we've only got one article for this, so the majority of the day will be spent on the whistleblower. The whistleblowers, I should say. There's 2 of them. We're going to read here a tweet from Harry Sisson, paid notable shill for the Biden admin. And this actually probably would have gone to the wayside if the Daily Wire had not reported on this as well. So we have breaking red light. The target letter sent to Donald Trump from the DOJ for January 6 includes 3 federal statutes he may be charged with. 1, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., 2, obstructing an official proceeding, and 3, witness tampering. What's notably absent from this? And this guy, so essentially Trump is screwed. They've obtained a significant evidence that the DOJ isn't taking this investigation lightly. Here's the reporting confirming this. Which is another tweet. From somebody, by the way, who also has not seen the letters. The letter rather. So do take this with a gigantic grain of salt. That is something that we do need to pay attention to with this. But what is notably absent from these 3 charges? Seditious conspiracy, insurrection, aiding and abetting foreign enemies of the state, or a host of other things that would actually cause a 14th Amendment bar from running for the presidency. It's all process crime, which, I mean, standard operating procedure at this point. and has been in DC for a very, very long time. But I mean, these are the same little charges that they're pulling most of the January 6 people on. Conspiracy to defraud and obstructing an official proceeding. Which, by the way, obstructing an official proceeding carries way too high of a sentence for what it is. It's 5 years. In the District of Columbia, obstructing an official proceeding is a 5-year felony. And witness tampering, which there's been some talk in the Discord as to whether or not that could actually be proven. I don't necessarily think that it could. But this is a giant, if this is true, if what Harry Sisson is saying, this is a giant pot of absolutely nothing. But realistically, so is what's happening in the documents case. Now, we're supposed to be told, and we are told over and over again, that because the documents left the Mar-a-Lago, it means that he was selling them to the Saudis. They can't provide they can't provide an invoice for this. They can't provide any evidence that it was sold to the Saudis. But trust me, we know that he did. Look at all the money they paid to Jared Kushner. Well, that's speculation. That gets thrown out in court. Really, honestly, what they have on him is process crimes. What do we have here? Process crimes. Adjacency crimes. There was no insurrection, if I'm to believe these three, but we will see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow was the day that he's set to meet with the grand jury. We've got one from the Daily Wire. Trump target letter outlines 3 federal statutes he potentially violated in alleged efforts to overturn the election, from Ryan Saavedra. The target letter that former President Trump says that he received over the weekend in special counsel Jack Smith's federal investigation into his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election mentions 3 statutes the former president may have violated. ABC News reported that multiple sources confirmed to the publication that the 3 federal statutes include conspiracy to commit offense or to defraud the United States, deprivation of rights under color of law, and tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant. Let's open up the ABC article, just for fun. Because I kind of want to see what this says here. And have we seen the letter? That's the big question, is have we seen the letter? Let's see. Smith has informed Trump by letter he is a target of the investigation. Trump also confirmed the development in a post on his Truth Social platform. The letter, which unnamed sources say was transmitted to Trump's attorneys in recent days, indicates that yet another indictment of the former president could be imminent. The target letter mentions 3 federal statutes. There are no additional details in the letter, and it does not say how the special counsel's office claims Trump may have violated the statutes listed. Sources say, can I see the letter? Because as of right now, I see no evidence for this. We'll see. If this is true, another one, big if true, then that tells me that they have nothing. But we will have to see what's happening with that and where that goes. We're here for different news today. The big news, the whistleblowers. 2 whistleblowers for the IRS dropped their masks and revealed their identities and testified in front of the House Oversight Committee today. Charlie Kirk taking the lead on this one. A tweet from Kirk. The identity of IRS whistleblower X, a 13-year special agent of the IRS, will be revealed today for the first time in sworn testimony before Congress. This was as of 8:58 a.m. this morning, Central Time, of course. The only true time zone. His powerful opening statement regarding the DOJ's alleged obstruction of the Hunter Biden investigation has been released. We do have video of this. I will read Charlie Kirk's statement on this. I witnessed the corrosion of ethical standards and the abuse of power that threatened our nation. It is within this context that I have chosen to shed light on these actions and expose those responsible. I recognize that while I was present at the start of the investigation and was closely involved with the investigation for roughly 5 years, that I'm just a part of the story. My aim is to address systemic problems that have allowed misconduct to flourish. It is not a call for blame, but a call for accountability and reform. Transparency is the foundation of our democracy. Without it, people lose their trust in the institutions and the Bro, you work for the IRS. Most people don't have trust for you guys to begin with. Especially me, I'm one of them. And the bonds that tie the fabric of our nation start to fray. The American people deserve to know the truth no matter how uncomfortable or inconvenient it may be for either political party. So that is a part of the statement. I believe we have the entire opening statement later on down the stack. There is a PDF of the full statement here. It is 15 pages long. So we're not going to go through a lot of this, but I am going to put this into the Discord if you guys would like to read it. And I'll pop it in the live chat for all the platforms as well. So bear with me for just a moment. Into general chat. Into live chat. For Rumble, into live chat for main channels. So guys, do feel free to go check that out at your earliest leisure. There are still some redacted portions of this as well. We have the identity from Fox News. Whistleblower X reveals his identity as IRS Special Agent Joe Ziegler. From Brooke Singman. The identity of anonymous IRS whistleblower alleging political misconduct throughout the Hunter Biden investigation has been revealed. As Special Agent Joe Ziegler, a gay Democrat with more than a dozen years serving within the agency's Criminal Investigation Division. Yes, pay attention to that. That's going to become important later. Ziegler appeared for the first time publicly before the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday alongside his IRS supervisor Gary Shapley, who has also blown the whistle on political influence surrounding prosecutorial decisions throughout the years-long federal probe into the First Son. He said he is a 13-year special agent within the IRS Criminal Investigation Division and described himself as a gay Democrat married to a man. Not anymore, he isn't. He's going to be run out of that party so fast, he'll be called a cis-straight white supremacist by the end of the week. Ziegler is expected to testify that Hunter should have been charged with tax felony. Not only the tax misdemeanor charge, and that communications and text messages reviewed by investigators may be a contradiction to what President Biden was saying about not being involved in Hunter's overseas business dealing. He is expected to explain the corrosion of ethical standards and the abuse of power that threaten our nation that he has witnessed. Ziegler is also expected to testify in several instances which prosecutors did not follow the ordinary processes, slow-walk the investigation, and put in place unnecessary approvals and roadblocks. From effectively and efficiently investigating the case, including prosecutors blocking questioning and interviewing Hunter's adult children. Ziegler is also expected to ask Congress and the Biden admin to consider a special counsel for the Hunter investigation and all related cases and spin-off investigations that have come forward from this investigation. Chances of that? Bagel. He is expected to testify that Congress should consider establishing an official channel for federal investigators to pull the emergency cord and raise the issue of the appointment of special counsel for consideration by your senior officials. Shapley, who's participated in multiple media interviews since the House Ways and Means Committee released his transcribed interview last month, is expected to testify that prosecutors had decided to conceal some evidence from the investigators that they found on Hunter's laptop. Shapley is also expected to say that the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office slow-walked steps like conducting interviews, serving document requests, and pursuing physical search warrants in California, Virginia, and Delaware until after the 2020 presidential election. The warrants were ready as early as April 2020, but the Delaware USAO pushed them off until after the November 2020 election, and then never pursued them, Shapley will say. So, there is a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of stuff happening. Now, as far as where I look at this, I actually am kind of in favor of having this dropped. Because the big part of this is this comes out into being a politically divisive issue. Whether or not you believe Hunter is guilty. The same question I have about Hunter's guilt is the same one that's brought up. It's the same question I have about people who want to lock up Trump and throw away the key, the people who want anybody who has ever been associated with Trump locked up and throw away the key, and the people who thought that Hillary was going to get locked up, and that is, I want you to bring me a judge who was appointed by either Barack Obama, Donald Trump, or Joe Biden himself, who is objective enough to take the case, who can actually effectively take the case without recusal. Remember, and this is a big reminder for you, the vast majority of the judiciary right now, on the Supreme Court level, and even down into the lower court levels on the federal judiciary, which this is a federal case, were appointed by either one Barack Hussein Obama, one Donald John Trump, or one Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. There are a few outliers that were appointed by W, and I think there might still be a couple stragglers from Clinton's tenure. But for the most part, our judiciary is filled with appointees from Obama and Trump. Obama from having 8 years, and Trump from having the speed pass to get people through. And then the few from Biden as well. So I do have questions about that and how this could possibly be investigated and tried fairly. And yes, that's important to me. And we've already seen how special counsels go. Depending on who appointed them, they become a political arm for whoever the department is. Hence why we see Jack Smith doing the things that he's doing. Oh, but he prosecuted Kerry back in the day. Yes, if I remember correctly, that was long before his wife, which I don't even know if they were married at the time, released a glowing biopic of Michelle Obama. So that is where we sit on that. Daily Wire focusing on the identity politics, especially given the fact that they decry identity politics. Whistleblower X is a gay Democrat, hopes to be a good example for LGBTQIRA, MIGIXTBYAEIOU, sometimes Y people, from Daniel Chayton. The mysterious whistleblower X is set to testify before a House committee about federal investigation of Hunter Biden on Wednesday, and he's a gay Democrat that says he wants to set a good example for the alphabet community. The 13-year special agent with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, the whistleblower, was publicly identified as Joseph Ziegler when he appeared to testify alongside his supervisor, Gary Shapley, not Shapley, they misspelled that in here, concerning the alleged mishandling of the probe into President Biden's son. His 15-page opening statement, published on the House Oversight Committee website ahead of the hearing set for 1300 hours Eastern Time, mostly addresses the investigation but also makes little room to address the issue of identity politics and argues against the idea that he might be a traitor to his party. Let's watch.
I've recently discovered that people are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man. I'm no more credible than this man sitting next to me due to my sexual orientation or my political beliefs. The truth is, my credibility comes today from my job experience with the IRS and my intimate knowledge of the agency's standard and procedures. I was raised and have always strived to do what is right. Although I do have my supporters, others have said that I am a traitor to the Democratic Party and that I am causing more division in our society. I implore you to consider that if you were in my position with the facts as I have stated them, ask yourself if you would be doing the exact same thing. I hope that I am an example to other LGBTQ people out there who are questioning doing the right thing at the potential cost of themselves and others.
Mo Weiss says he is a member of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. This is one of the things, by the way, that I hate about how divisive our politics have become. Now, in reality, he wants to say that who he votes for doesn't change anything. That has more potential in today's divided political structure, who he voted for, because, I mean, and I've said this before, we're on two religions theory at this point. If you support one political party, you believe that the head of the other political party is the great Satan, and the head of your political party is God. Meg, I'm talking to you too. Just keep that in mind. Whereas if you go the other way, and it's the same thing. The people who support Biden think that Trump is the devil and Biden is God. The people that support Trump think that he's God and Biden is the devil. The people that support DeSantis think that DeSantis is God and that Trump is the devil. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. So yes, I can see who you vote for takes a bearing off of this, but to borrow a phrase from my good friend, the R-rated conservative, what the fuck does it matter if he likes to suck a fucking prick or not? I don't see where that matters at all. So that is where we are at on this one, but we've got a lot more to go through on this. From NPC News, IRS whistleblowers testify before House Oversight Committee about Hunter probe. A little bit on this one from Rebecca Shabbat and Rebecca Kaplan. A pair of whistleblowers testified Wednesday afternoon before the House Oversight Committee about the alleged meddling in the DOJ's investigation of Hunter. The hearing before the GOP-led panel featured testimony from Gary Shapley, an agent from the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division, and Joe Ziegler, who worked as the agency's International Tax and Financial Crimes section. Committee Chairman Jim Comer said the two witnesses had critical information to share about the panel's investigation into what he alleged is the Biden family's influence peddling schemes. In his opening statement, Shapley said that his red line was observing U.S. Attorney David Weiss of Delaware, who oversaw the Hunter case, tell a room full of senior FBI and IRS investigators on October 2022 that he was not the deciding person on whether the charges are filed. Shapley said he raised concerns during the meeting and that 2 weeks later the IRS was entirely cut out of the case by the DOJ. Boomboxes, I didn't catch your message earlier, I'm sorry. I was apparently blocked from commenting today by Charlie Kirk. Yeah, Charlie Kirk has got really, really thin skin. He's got a really small face, too, but we don't go after physical attributes here. We go after the character and the stupid shit that they say. And they do say a lot of stupid shit. Weiss has disputed Shapley's allegations, writing in a letter to Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, in late June, that he was granted ultimate authority in terms of where, when, and whether to file charges in the case. Shapley, in his prepared remarks, was highly critical of Weiss and Attorney General Garland for not appearing before Congress to address the case and accused them of using their offices and your tax dollars to put carefully crafted, narrow non-denials that have confused rather than clarified to the public, all without being subject to cross-examination on the facts. Yeah, cross is really important at this point. And I do think that's a big part of the reason that we had the plea deal, the misdemeanor, and the suspended sentence, is because I do think that these people would get absolutely crushed in cross. In fact, I'd kind of like to see it, honestly. Excuse me. Ziegler said in his opening statement that he was the lead IRS case agent on Hunter investigation and that the IRS had recommended both felony and misdemeanor charges against the president's son. I have reason to believe that there was gross mismanagement present throughout the investigation. Oh, gross. That there was a gross waste of funds relating to their tax dollars spent on investigating the case. That's really gross, but I mean, that's what our government does all the time, is waste our taxpayer dollars. And that there was an abuse of authority with the DOJ, tax, and the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, he said in prepared remarks. Jordan, who's also a member of the Oversight Committee, said the witnesses' testimony had been consistent and that they should be believed instead of the DOJ because they have more than a decade of experience in criminal investigations and are experts on international tax evasion cases. I think I believe these guys, Jordan said. I think they're the ones telling the truth. Jamie Raskin said in his opening remarks that Hunter Biden made foolish and criminal choices, including failing to pay his taxes and owning a firearm in the violation of federal law. But, he said, Hunter is now being held criminally accountable. No, he is absolutely not. If any of the rest of us did this, we would be in a cell, nervously walking around Big Bubba, especially in the shower. One thing you will not hear today is any evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden or his administration, Raskin added, saying that the effort by Republicans to create a scandal about the president is a complete and total bust. Well, we'll keep seeing. Odd! From Fox News, CNN and MSDNC skipped the live coverage of IRS whistleblower hearing on explosive Hunter Biden probe claims. Now, Fox has been accused of doing the same thing, going the other direction, so do keep that in mind. C-SPAN does always carry all of this kind of stuff, so... And they are at least attempting to be non-biased. Everybody's got a bias. From Joseph A. Wolfson. CNN and MSDNC skipped airing live coverage of the House Oversight Committee questioning the explosive claims from the IRS whistleblowers involved in the criminal investigation of Hunter. Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, who revealed his identity for the first time at Wednesday's hearing, doubled down on the allegations that investigators were repeatedly blocked and stonewalled from seeking further information that could implicate President Biden, and that requests by U.S. Attorney David Weiss to bring more serious charges against his son were denied. However, the two liberal networks that carried every hearing involving Russiagate, the Ukraine scandal January 6th, and both impeachments declined to cover the IRS whistleblowers that fuel the corruption allegations against the Democrat currently in the White House. They instead aired limited segments recapping the testimony. NBC News correspondent Ken Delanian appeared on MSDNC to downplay the whistleblower claims, echoing talking points from Democrat lawmakers at the hearing, chalking up the testimony as being more routine, disagreements between investigators and prosecutors, and invoked Shapley's legal team having ties to Republicans. Meanwhile, CNN correspondent Zachary Cohn was invited on air to highlight the comments made by Jamie Raskin, stressing GOP lawmakers have failed to connect any of these investigations to the president himself. Well, when you're actively being blocked, it makes it kind of hard. Got a lengthy one here from Kanekoa the Great. IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley's opening statement on DOJ corruption and the Biden family's crimes. We're going to listen to just a bit of this. This is a 15-minute opening statement, so we're not going to go through the entire thing. A little bit of commentary down here. Terry in SoCal says, "How are the Biden crime family not charged still?" And to which I came back and said, well, they can't find a prosecutor who won't shoot himself in the back of the head twice. Let's listen.
Thank you for inviting me to testify here today. I want to thank every member and staffer on both sides of the aisle who work for the work you do to represent your constituents and hold government accountable. My name is Gary Shapley. I have worked as a special agent for IRS criminal investigation for 14 years. I have risen to become a senior leader in the organization and currently supervise 12 elite agents in the International Tax and Financial Crimes Group. I have worked directly with United States attorneys in multiple districts and have supervised or investigated cases in more than a dozen United States attorneys' offices across the country. I have led, planned, or executed undercover operations or search warrants in more than a dozen countries. I have investigated and managed some of the largest cases in the history of the agency, recovering more than $3.5 billion for the United States taxpayer. In this country, we believe in the rule of law, and that applies to everyone. There should not be a two-track justice system depending on who you are and who you're connected to. Yet, in this case, there was. Based on my experience, I'm here to tell you that the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office and Department of Justice handling the Hunter Biden tax investigation was very different from any other case in my 14 years at the IRS. At every stage, decisions were made that benefited the subject of this investigation. For example, prosecutors concealed contents of Hunter Biden's laptop from investigators. DOJ slow-walked steps to include interviews, serving document requests, and executing search warrants. Warrants that were ready as early as April of 2020, but were delayed until after the November 2020 election and never pursued. Investigators were not allowed to follow up on WhatsApp messages from Hunter Biden's Apple iCloud backup, where he suggested he was sitting next to his father. Assistant United States Attorney Leslie Wolf cited the optics of executing a search warrant at President Biden's residence as a deciding factor for not allowing it, even though she agreed that probable cause existed. Prosecutors instructed investigators not to ask about the big guy or dad when conducting interviews. The Biden transition team was tipped off about interviews the night before the investigation went overt, a fact my FBI counterpart confirmed to this committee in recent testimony, where the result was that only one witness spoke to investigators that day. These are just some of the examples of how our investigation was stymied. I'm not here to support partisan agendas on either side. I'm here because our tax system relies on the American people having confidence it is administered fairly and equally for everyone, regardless of your last name or political connections. If the handling of this case was inappropriate, it doesn't matter whether it happened under a Republican or Democrat administration. Whether you agree with my concerns about the unethical slow walking and preferential treatment in this case, you can be sure that my testimony is true and correct to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, the way this has already been handled by some members and the media has done immeasurable damage to future would-be whistleblowers. I have been attacked as incompetent and falsely accused of being a liar, a leaker, or both, all by people who...
And what Shapley said is important. By the way, we definitely dropped a signal here. I caught that, and Mowai caught it right about as well. I saw that there was an extra notification over on Discord, and I went to go check it out and saw that we dropped briefly about 3 minutes ago. A new YouTube link is out, so if you guys want to share that out for YouTube, I can get that up into the chat for you guys. And Rumble obviously stayed up and running, and so did Twitch. Those obviously don't need new links, but yes, that we're still contending with Spectrum. So after the stream, since we are doing the recording for Spotify, I will re-upload the recording so you guys can enjoy Contemporary in its full viewing form without having the cutoff here. So check for that. Otherwise, again, you can always check us out on Spotify because that didn't drop. That's on recording. That is not on... That's not dependent on what the stream does. So that is where we are at for that. As far as what Shapley said, the point is to try to prevent whistleblowers from coming forward, especially if they're coming forward against Democrats. My big fear right now is that Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler both, or Mr. Ziegler's partner perhaps, contracts a highly contagious form of depression. Because that seems to happen on people that go against the Uniparty. So I do wish him well. I do hope that Shapley comes out with a statement saying whether or not he is depressed or has any sort of a self-harm idea, so we can go back and talk him out of that. I'm going to say that he probably doesn't, and yet he might be able to do this. As far as, but again, what he said. I've been discredited. I've been called a white supremacist. I've been called incompetent. I've been called a bad IRS agent. I've been called all this kind of stuff. They're trying to make sure that the people who are going to go vote for Joe don't think that anything that he says in this hearing are credible. Number one, they don't want to air the hearings themselves so they can go back and sanitize it and make it say whatever it is that they want, but also don't want people to go back in and be glued to this lie because why would you listen to somebody who's completely incompetent? So that is what we have for that. Kind of pisses me off when Spectrum does this, by the way, because we were starting to climb in the viewership over on the main channel. We did get back up to 5 over on the Rumble side. Let's see, what else do we have here? From the Daily Wire, IRS whistleblower says story from Hunter. Prosecutor has been changing. One of the IRS whistleblowers from Hunter's investigation said the DOJ said Delaware's U.S. Attorney, David Weiss, are not being consistent in attempts to complain, charging authorities in the matter. IRS Supervisory Special Agent Gary Shapley, who testified alongside Joseph Ziegler before the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday about the alleged mishandling of the probe into President Biden's son, said he does not know what happened internally at the DOJ, but Shapley stressed, what he can say is that the story has been changing from the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney Weiss, and the only person that's really had any documents that have been corroborated are my own. Let's listen.
They've changed their story. You guys haven't. What do you think happened? What do you think? Mr. Weiss was consistent with the investigators up until this October 7th meeting, and then he changed. What do you think happened, Mr. Shapley?
I mean, I don't know what happened internal at Department of Justice, but what I can say is that the story has been changing from Department of Justice and U.S. Attorney Weiss, and I think the only person that's really had any documents that have been corroborated are my own.
Exactly. I think what happened. I think it's obvious. Anyone with common sense can see what happened, because he said it in Mr. Graham's letter. He said, I had discussions with Maine Justice. I had discussions with the folks, the Deputy Attorney General, the Attorney, whoever it was, I don't know, but he had discussions with the people at Maine Justice, and suddenly things change.
Moments prior, Jordan pressed Shapley to discuss an email he sent to supervisors summarizing an October 2022 meeting, which noted Weiss told attendees he was not the deciding person on whether to bring charges and was denied special counsel authority by the Maine DOJ, which has been a big part of the story since the whistleblower first came out. And we have seen a lot changing on the story to begin with. I mean, just what we see in the news every day. We see a lot of change for that, so that's where we go with that. Second whistleblower goes public. We know who that one is. That Ziegler was our second whistleblower. We'll skip that one. From The Blaze. Dem lawmaker claims Hunter Biden is victim of two-tier justice system, but curiously avoids one key detail. From Chris Enlow. Rep. Dan Goldman claimed Wednesday that Hunter is the victim of a two-tiered justice system. But testimony from IRS whistleblowers quickly dismantled that narrative. Ahead of a House Oversight Committee hearing, Goldman dismissed whistleblower claims that the DOJ officials interfered in the Hunter investigation. There actually is no basis to say what this is somehow political interference or weaponization, as Republicans say of the Department of Justice, Goldman claimed. In fact, based on my experience, I'm shocked that Hunter was even charged with these crimes. So the fact that he's even taken a plea deal, in my mind, demonstrates a two-tier justice system against Hunter Biden, he asserted. Goldman, however, provided no evidence to back his claims. On the contrary, two IRS whistleblowers who played key roles in the Hunter investigation have testified under criminal penalty about alleged DOJ interference. Not only has U.S. Attorney Weiss not explicitly denied some of these claims, but the whistleblowers alleged there were witnesses to Weiss's own admissions of interference. Importantly, the New York Times, a former newspaper, has independently confirmed some of the allegations that Goldman claimed are fantasy. It's a two-tier justice system, but it's not against Hunter Biden. Oh, because he's being targeted, that means it's a two-tier justice system. Dude, again, I remind you, I would be in prison right now. And not a white-collar resort prison. Pack your bags and tape your butt shut prison, if I did what Hunter did. Mogwai says, got a feeling someone's about to find a rocky stool and a freshly tied rope. Just a brief one here. kind of a TLDR of the hearings because they were very, very long today. Ashley Munoz for president says House Oversight Committee questions IRS whistleblowers on live television. The Democrats, but what about Trump? Which is like the entirety of their platform at this point. Thank you, Ashley Munoz. From the Daily Mail, FBI told Hunter Biden investigator to avoid Congress's questions in latest bombshell about efforts to shield first son investigation from public eye. From Stephen M. Lepore. A lawyer for the FBI told an agent who investigated Hunter to avoid answering questions from the House Oversight Committee as news continues to leak about the criminal investigation into the first son. The committee is probing whether the officers looking into Biden's tax affairs and drug use on gun permits gave the 53-year-old preferential treatment. FBI counsel Jason Jones sent a letter Sunday to the agent, whose name has been redacted, just hours before they were set to testify before the committee, telling them to dodge questions about the ongoing investigative activity. Oh, but I was told that only Republicans dodge questions. The department expects that you will decline to respond to questions seeking non-public information likely covered by one or more components of executive privilege, or other significant confidentiality interests, in particular, information about deliberations or ongoing investigative activity in law enforcement matters, he wrote. The department expects that you will decline to answer these, or we don't know what's going to happen. We can't stop anything from happening either. That's not ominous or anything. We've got one more. We've got the Jamie Raskin quote before we go on to how this all got derailed in the end, which is a lot of fun as well. Reading from Breaking 911. Michael Scott. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Jamie Raskin. I thought that was Michael Scott from When He Went Gangster. Rep. Raskin. There's no evidence that Hunter received any kind of official favoritism in this prosecution for being Joe Biden's son. Well, technically there is right now. Oh, we disconnected again. Motherfucker. They're doing it again. Thank you, Spectrum. You fuckwits. And the hard part is that it just takes so long to do this. I'm basically doing dead air or keeping up away from dead air right now, as we wait to see if this will reconnect while we're still in the YouTube stream, or whether this will kick us off again. Looks like we did reconnect, but the audio platform is not registering the disconnect, of course, again, because we're going straight from the recording. And we are back up. This one didn't disconnect all the way. Oh man, I wish I could have the conversation with Spectrum and figure out what the hell is going on with this. In fact, I think I'm going to call them again and figure out what the hell is going on with this. Anyway, we have got to keep going because we've still got a bunch of stuff to go over here. Anyway, for Michael Scott, there's no evidence Hunter has received any kind of official favoritism in this prosecution for being Biden's son. Let's listen.
There is no evidence that Hunter Biden has received any kind of official favoritism in this prosecution for being Joe Biden's son. On the contrary, there are more than 10 million Americans who have filed taxes but failed to pay them, the exact crime Hunter Biden is pleading guilty to. The vast majority of these cases are resolved administratively or through civil settlement. Indeed, every year the IRS and DOJ obtain convictions and sentences in fewer than 700 cases for tax crimes of any kind, a minuscule percentage. There is no evidence that Hunter Biden has received.
Well, we'll see what happens in the investigation, which I do hope is going to come at some point, because you keep telling me that there's no evidence, but we've got people who could be put in prison for 5 years to 10 years for telling a lie, saying that it's there. All right. Moving on to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Harry Sisson to start off with. What the fuck? Marjorie Taylor Greene just showed non-consensual nude images of Hunter Biden on the House floor. This is disgusting! Totally unacceptable! And we'll talk about why this was a stupid thing in just a moment. But also taking it straight from the horse's mouth. Green. Here's proof that Hunter paid prostitutes through his law firm, Owasco PC, and trafficked his victims across state lines in violation of the Mann Act. Not only that, IRS whistleblowers confirmed that Hunter Biden committed tax fraud by deducting payments to prostitutes from Owasco's taxes. Let's listen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we begin, I would like to let the committee and everyone watching at home that parental discretion is advised. I would also like to remind everyone that on our Oversight Committee, we provide oversight into all parts of the federal government, including their Department of Justice, and their willingness to prosecute and their unwillingness to prosecute, and whether it's politically motivated. I would also like to say that when evidence and proof of a crime is presented, no prosecution should be denied, no matter who the person is. To the whistleblowers today, I thank both of you for your courage to come to the committee today and your commitment to truth. I have great respect for it, so thank you. I would like to talk with you both about Hunter Biden and his tax write-offs with his law firm, Owasco. I would like to ask Mr. Ziegler, when did you start your investigation? In your testimony, it was November 2018. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. During your testimony with the House Ways and Means Committee, you stated that through bank records, you identified Hunter Biden was paying prostitutes related to a potential prostitution ring. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes, that's correct.
I've also reviewed those same bank reports, commonly referred to as SARS, Suspicious Activity Reports, and I'm very troubled by them. We read thousands of them in the Treasury. This particular excerpt from a SARS report talks about human trafficking and in regards to Hunter Biden and Owasco and payments he was making. What's even more troubling to me is that the Department of Justice has brought no charges against Hunter Biden that will vindicate the rights of these women who are clearly victims under the law. I would like to talk about in your prior testimony, you stated that the prosecutorial team was investigating violations of the Mann Act. Is that correct, Mr. Ziegler?
That is correct.
Regarding the Mann Act, if a person is transported across state lines for sexual activity, such as prostitution, that could be a violation of a federal law. Is that correct?
I actually recently looked at the federal law regarding Mann Act, and I believe that that is correct, but I would refer you to the DOJ manual.
Thank you. I would like to present this to the committee. This is showing Hunter Biden paying for a victim's United flight from LA to Dulles. I believe this is a violation of the Mann Act. This is Hunter Biden's, this is his proof that he bought the ticket. He bought it for this woman right here. He flew her from Los Angeles to Washington on June 14th, flew her back to Los Angeles, California on June 15th of 2018. And I would like to point out that if he was purchasing her a plane ticket for sex and traveling across state lines, do you believe that to be a violation of the Mann Act, Mr. Ziegler?
So I can talk to specifically what's in my transcript regarding the Mann Act. So I know we were compiling the information together.
Yes, but Mr. Ziegler, as the law states, by the code of the law, it states traveling, paying someone to go across state lines is prostitution. It's a violation of the Mann Act. Let me just move on just one more second here. So when Hunter Biden paid for this woman
and there it
to
is.
do this with him, to travel across state lines from California to Washington, D.C. on June 15th, this is a violation of the Mann Act. This was prostitution. Let me continue. Did Hunter Biden also use his company Owasco PC to pay?
Way to turn this back around, away from actual very serious allegations in the reform of the DOJ, the favoritism of the DOJ, and Joe Biden's business dealings, and make this all about Hunter Biden's junk. I do swear that this woman is a plant sometimes. And once again, now we'll have to go for 6 entire months and hear, oh, Republicans have nothing in this except for Hunter Biden's junk. They're obsessed with his penis. Oh, we are back to Fox News again. MTG shows censored nude pictures of Hunter during IRS whistleblower hearing. From Jessica Chasmar. By the way, some very, very good propaganda coming out of this here from Sisson. I will give him credit for the propaganda on this, because he just blurred the entire picture, implying that this is a fully uncensored picture that she just threw on the floor for everybody to see, whereas, and we will have to, I'm going to mute this when we go back and look at this, but blow this back up and you can see like everything that's naughty is blacked out. Because this is for evidence, not for beating off to. But that is good propaganda, by the way, Sisson. And I'm sure every one of your paid and botted followers believes that this was just a full-out naked picture. Reading from Fox News. MTG shows censored nude pictures of Hunter during IRS whistleblower hearing. From Jessica Chasmar. Marjorie Taylor Greene caused a stir when she held up several graphic photos from Hunter's laptop during a committee hearing on Wednesday with IRS whistleblowers alleging misconduct in investigations into the Biden family. The House Oversight Committee interviewed 2 IRS whistleblowers alleging political misconduct throughout the Hunter Biden investigation. The special agent, Joseph Ziegler, whose identity was revealed during the hearing, and his IRS supervisor, Gary Shapley. Shapley previously blew the whistle on alleged political influence surrounding prosecutorial decisions throughout the years-long federal probe into President Biden's son. Ziegler testified Wednesday that Hunter itemized $10,000 in deductions to his 2018 tax return for a supposed golf club membership that was really a sex club membership, and that he wrote off payments to prostitutes as business expenses. So I can tell you that there were deductions for what we believe to be escorts, and that $10,000 golf club membership, yes, that was not a golf club membership, that was for a sex club payment, Ziegler told Greene. Greene held up censored nude photos taken from Hunter's abandoned laptop and addressed Ziegler. So when Hunter paid for this woman to do this with him, to travel across state lines from California to Washington, D.C., on June 15th, this is a violation of that Mann Act. This was prostitution. This is evidence of Hunter Biden making this is my time, making pornography, she said, holding up another photo as Democrats objected. One member interjected that showing the pictures was unbecoming of the hearing, and another asked, should we be displaying this in the committee? Did I miss that, by the way? Did we not go far enough in this video? Kind of want to scroll ahead at this point and see. I also kind of want to make sure we didn't just drop, because the video is not loading the rest of the way. Now, as far as this goes, Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to make this about prostitution and not tax violation, tax fraud, or business dealings, which is what should be focused on, and one of the main reasons that this entire investigation was opened up. And again, as I said at the top of this, she just took all of that, threw it out, and made the entire thing about Hunter Biden's penis. I tweeted about this earlier, and I said, don't fall into the trap. This is not about prostitution. And in fact, even if he's paying her, the woman flew from California to Washington, D.C. If we can even confirm that in these pictures. All we see is a hand, a penis that's blacked out, and a female body. Those pictures prove nothing. She could have made her entire point without them. But now the Jersey, My Wife's Son, Reliance of the world, and the Harry Sissons, and the Chris Mowrys, and the JoJo from Joyce, and the people like that are stuck on another talking point of, oh, Republicans are obsessed with Hunter Biden's penis. It's all his penis. It's penis. They're obsessed with his penis. So that's the hearing. It was a mess. It was a crazy time. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, but mostly the worst of times. Mogwai says, I think you did drop again, but I'll be watching the VOD for tax tips. Yeah, I am glad that we started doing the recording on this one, because Spectrum is never going to get any better. They're slightly better at this point, but they're never going to get completely better. I have been dealing with them since the first time I turned on a webcam. So we got to move on to some other stuff here. Finish out throughout the day. I do want to get to this Disney stuff. Because if I don't, I'm going to put in things I like and things that I hate, and there's a bunch. Alright, moving on. From Amy Klobuchar. Today, we reintroduced the Freedom to Vote Act. Honor to lead the Senate bill. Pass it on so that all Americans will be able to vote in a country built on freedom. To which Frank, who if you're not following Frank, you should, Richard Rawl, 1086 on Twitter, reminds us that all Americans can vote. From WITN, out of Greenville, North Carolina, that's an NBC affiliate, a local, congressional Democrats reintroduce election reform bill. From Josh Waltenberg, House and Senate Democrats reintroduced a bill Tuesday that would strengthen federal prosecutions of voting rights. The legislation is in response to a proposal House Republicans put forward last week, encouraging states to make their own changes. We want to show Americans who in Washington is fighting for them and who is fighting against our hegemony, said Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer at a press conference. Schumer said democracy is facing unprecedented threats. No, Schumer's hegemony is facing unprecedented threats, like we have not seen in more than a century. That's why Democrats have reintroduced the Freedom to Vote Act. The Freedom to Vote Act would fundamentally right-size our democracy, advancing access to the ballot, ending the scourge of concentrated money in our politics, Act Blue, and giving our voice to everyday Americans. The bill would set national standards for voting by expanding early and mail-in voting, while strengthening rules about election security, redistricting, and campaign finance. All unconstitutional, by the way, and not from the amendments, from the articles. It would also establish how states could require voter identification and make Election Day a federal holiday. Again, everything that's in that paragraph right there would require a constitutional amendment. Amy Klobuchar said this is necessary because Republicans in states across the country have shrunk the voting pool after nearly 160 million people voted in the 2020 election. And from an NBC affiliate, I'm surprised that got in here. They shrunk the voting pool after we had record turnout. Honk honk. By the way, Mogwai, saying that you want to go back and check the VOD, are you subscribed to YouTube? The YouTube channel? youtube.com/JEdgar101? Because that's where the unedited version, the undropped version, is going to be uploaded to. And Rumble, of course, which I believe is also JEdgar101. The Freedom to Vote Act was supported by every Senate Democrat in the last Congress and will likely be again. Instead of backing this plan, Republicans last week introduced their own election reform bill. Brian Stile, formerly my representative, said the GOP proposal, not Wisconsin, would make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. Well, again, just bring it back down completely on a state level, because then you have to go back and honk honk 50 elections instead of one. Which is, by the way, what the goal of most of these are, is trying to make this into honk-honking one election, not 50. E. Jean Carroll, the story that will never die. From CNN Politics, the judge denies Trump's request for a new trial in E. Jean Carroll case. If I understand this correctly, this isn't a denial of a request for a new trial, this is a denial of a countersuit. From Kara Scannell. A federal judge has denied Trump's request for a new trial in the E. Jean Carroll case, finding the jury, who found that the former president sexually abused and defamed Carroll, did not reach a seriously erroneous result. The jury in this case did not reach a seriously erroneous result. Simple as that. Judge Lewis Kaplan said, its verdict is not a miscarriage of justice. Well, no, it's a civil suit, that's why. It literally, contractually cannot be a miscarriage of justice. It's a civil suit. Trump had asked for a new trial after the jury awarded magazine columnist E. Jean Carroll $5 million in damages. Now that the court has denied Trump's motion for a new trial to decrease the amount of the verdict, Carroll looks forward to receiving $5 million in damages that the jury awarded her in the Carroll 2. She also looks forward to continuing to hold Trump accountable for what he did to her at the trial in Carroll 1, which is scheduled to begin on January 15th, 2024, said Roberta Kaplan, attorney for Carroll. We're just going to keep suing him and keep suing him because we couldn't do anything in the criminal trial. And he should sue, but a rare one from the Washington Post over here. Judge clarifies, yes, Trump was found to have raped E. Jean Carroll. That's bullshit, by the way. From analysis, though, from Aaron Blake. Op-ed from Aaron Blake. After Trump was found liable of sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll, his legal team and his defenders lodged a frequent talking point. Despite Carroll's claims that Trump had raped her, they noted the jury stopped short of saying he committed that particular offense. Instead, jurors opted for a second option, sexual abuse. This was a rape claim, this was a rape case all along, and the jury rejected that and made other findings, his lawyer Joe Tacopina said outside the courthouse. A judge has now clarified that this is basically a legal distinction without a real-world difference. And do you know why he did this? I can tell you why he did this. He says that what the jury found Trump did was in fact rape, as commonly understood. The filing from Lewis Kaplan came as Trump's attorneys have sought a new trial and have argued that jury's $5 million verdict against Trump in the civil suit was excessive. The reason they argue is that sexual abuse could be as limited as groping of the victim's breasts. Kaplan roundly rejected Trump's motion Tuesday, calling that argument entirely unpersuasive. No, he did that because, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Trump is filing a countersuit because as soon as the jury came out and said, no, he did not rape you, or we don't have evidence to say that he raped you, she went on the news circuit right away and started screaming, oh, he raped me, and the jury said so. That is defamation, by the way. And Trump has a case for defamation, except for the fact that now Mr. Kaplan has said, oh no, you don't have a case. No, just take that bullshit out of here. Honkety honk honk, honk honk honk. What a load of bullshit. Let's talk Boebert. God, how late did I get started today? I just looked over and we're only 1:15 in. I thought we were way later than that. Not that I'm complaining. I do like talking to you guys, but... Alright, Victor Shi, the world's youngest delegate. And paid promoter as well. Lauren Boebert is an asshole. She was handed a pin honoring the victims of Uvalde's mass shooting, and she threw it in the trash. No acknowledgement, just throw it in the trash. This is how a sitting congresswoman treats gun violence victims. Beneath contempt. Let's watch with volume, because we just have been watching. And this is, by the way, selectively cut as well.
Finally recognized her green converses. Thank you. Have a nice day.
We hope you take action on gun violence prevention.
That right there is the reason that went in the trash, by the way. Did you hear it? Let's skip it back down to the end.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
We hope you take action on gun violence prevention.
Did you hear that? So, and before we even read the articles that are associated with this, the people that were handing out the pins don't give a flying fuck about Uvalde and the kids that were murdered there. They don't know the name of the person who was on there unless they sit there and directly read it to Lauren Boebert. They don't care about finding justice or anything else. They want a political talking point to try to trap Lauren Boebert in saying, no, I don't care about these darn kids. They don't give a damn about the cause that they're doing off of this. And that's why that went right into the trash. This is 100% why. 100% why that went right in the trash. Scottergate says that's how she ignores the tasteless stunt that exploits the Uvalde victims instead of honoring them. Phoenix Ammunition said gun control is trash and the people who are pushing it should be treated as such. That might be a little bit extreme. Yes, gun control is trash, but you should always treat people with respect. But, you know, and here's another one here. Red Girl says, Lauren Boebert, you threw a pin honoring Maite Rodriguez, a shooting victim from Uvalde, in the trash like it was nothing of consequence. You're truly a piece of shit. That kid was 10 fucking years old. These kids need Congress to fight for them, and unfortunately that means people like yourself. Instead, you're more concerned about Donald J. Trump, a corrupt grifter who cares more about himself than he does the country. Thanks for showing us who you truly are. Again, a person who could have made this political point without turning it into a political point for somebody else. Her opponent in the last election, Adam Frisch, for 2024. And Steve Sanchez responding, properly by the way. We honor might and all who lost their lives on that day, but maybe some of your anger should be geared towards Uvalde police, who waited so long from going in and exterminating the demon that did this. There was another comment out there that I wanted to catch. And it wasn't that one. Yep, the pin doesn't support anyone, it supports a political agenda. Yep, nope, liberal loony. It was about using dead children for their agenda. In fact, they want more dead children if they really cared than 100,000 who died from fentanyl last year would make them build a wall and arrest. And this was the one I was looking for. So they didn't put this one back up at the top. The group who handed her the pin was using Uvalde victims to promote their stance of disarming the American public. There are over 350 million legal law-abiding gun owners in the U.S. Associating them with criminals and criminal activity involving guns is a crummy thing to do, but it's absolutely no different than what Democrats always do, because I have no idea what that was. I think somebody stepped on a dog's tail. We've got the second, third generation Mexican who's been in this country since birth, opens a business, has been in the military, completely legal because he was born here, and his parents were born here and his grandparents were born here. It was his great-grandparents that came over the border illegally, who's supposed to be associated with somebody who jumped the border yesterday. People of color, that's another one. A hardworking Indonesian is supposed to have the exact same political views as somebody from the inner city in Chicago, because they both happen to not be white. And 350 million legal law-abiding gun owners are supposed to be exactly the same as a little piece of shit that shot up that school. So yes, in every case, what Boebert did was the right thing to do. From Newsweek. Lauren Boebert throws up pin honoring school shooting victim. That is not even close to what happened, but from Nick Mordowanek. New video shows Republican Representative Lauren Boebert throwing a pin commemorating a victim in last year's Uvalde shooting in the trash. The pin featured green Converse shoes in honor of Maite Rodriguez, one of the 19 child victims killed in May 2022 at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, the deadliest school shooting since the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre in 2012. Perpetrated by somebody who couldn't afford the guns that he had, I will add. There's the pin, by the way. A Twitter video posted on Tuesday showed members of multiple organizations saying the pin was reportedly being handed out in the halls of Congress by members of March for Our Lives, a national organization working to curb gun violence across America, and Lives Robbed, an organization formed by the families of the children murdered at Robb Elementary. So people who are standing on the bodies of children to make a political movement. The video posted on Twitter showed an unknown member from one of the organizations speaking with Boebert. In a congressional hallway, the individual tells Boebert the pin was in memory of Rodriguez, who was wearing green Converse sneakers the day of the Uvalde massacre. So this is funny, by the way. They glossed over what I told you to pay attention to in the video. Shocker! The video posted on Twitter on Tuesday showed an unknown member. The individual tells Boebert the pin was in memory of Rodriguez, who was wearing green Converse sneakers on the day of the massacre. Boebert never replies to the individual, only taking a piece of paper with a pin attached to it and proceeding to throw it in the trash before the video concludes. But see, again, we missed this bit of voiceover here.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
We hope you take action on gun violence prevention.
Now, see, why would Newsweek leave that out? I wonder. The propaganda is in full force, and I'm telling you, the propagandists are afraid. Jumping to the other side of the aisle, the Daily Beast. Another outlet that I don't use very often on this platform. On this program, rather, I should say. The Daily Beast. GOP seizes on Pramila Jayapal's Israel misstep to split Democrats. From Ursula Perano. Don't worry, the Republicans are only going to seize for one day. They'll go back to pouncing soon enough. One Progressive Caucus chairwoman, Pramila Jayapal, called Israel a racist state. She was quick to apologize and walk back her comment. But Republicans were not going to let just a good controversy die. Ever since Jayapal made the comment on Saturday at the Liberal Roots Nation Conference, Republicans have devoted much of their attention to humiliating the Congresswoman, tying the rest of the Democrat Party to Jayapal's words and highlighting the divisions. Which is not what's happening, number one, and number two, to the ones that are doing this, that's not the way that's not the thing to do. A one-page resolution from August Pfluger of Texas declared that Israel is not a racist or apartheid state, and said the U.S. would always support Israel, because of course they will, and announced that Congress condemns anti-Semitism and xenophobia. Republicans put the legislation to a vote Tuesday night and overwhelmingly adopted the resolution 412 to 9-1. House Democrats, a part of the party that has deep divides and nuanced disagreements about Israel, were left with little options other than to vote the resolution up or down. This is just so perilous, said one Democrat lawmaker. The fault line, with the exception of literally less than half a dozen outliers in the caucus that are pretty stridently anti-Israel. Beyond those outliers, the fault line is between sort of absolute or categorical pro-Israel, principled, and more nuanced pro-Israel. Number one, that vote that you just put out here, the Daily Beast, completely destroys your narrative that Republicans are anti-Semitic. Otherwise, this would probably have failed on party lines. And a reminder that while the Daily Beast is telling us that the evil Republicans associate the entire Democrat Party with the words of Pramila Jayapal, the Daily Beast conflates the words of anybody who doesn't toe the corporate Democrat line and say praise Biden with Nick Fuentes. I will remind you. That goofy little bastard. But don't pass a resolution. Let these women speak, and in fact elevate their speech. Let them show who they are. Absolutely. When they show you who they are, believe them. Some abortion news today from the ACLU of Louisiana. Breaking! Legislators overturn John Bell Edwards' veto of House Bill 648. A bill that bans gender-affirming care for minors and takes away parents' rights to make healthcare decisions about their children. Lawmakers who voted to overturn Governor Edwards' veto of the House Bill 648 have chosen to sacrifice the health and safety of Louisiana's transgender children and undermine the rights of their parents. Do you remember, by the way, when parents didn't just drop everything and give kids whatever they wanted when they screamed, "If you don't give me everything that I want, I'm just going to kill myself"? This is extreme government overreach and a direct threat to the civil liberties and constitutional rights of all Louisianians. We condemn today's override of HB 648 and will never stop fighting to protect the rights of transgender youth and their families. I mean, if you stop trying to trans the kids so desperately, we wouldn't need to do some of the things like this. Like, it wasn't 10 years ago when the idea of transgender surgeries for minors, or any sort of healthcare for minors who hadn't even had their nuts drop yet, or eggs, if the case may be, wasn't a controversial topic. If you're transsexual now, you will still be transsexual when you turn 18, and we cannot be held liable for this anymore. We didn't need to have government overreach because you guys weren't doing stupid crap like this. So reading from the Associated... Well, let's do Axios for this one. Reading from Axios today, Louisiana bans gender-affirming care for trans youth despite governor's veto. From Carly Coloth Wells, author of Axios New Orleans. Big shocker. A group of people who represent the majority of the people. And because of the high bar that's needed to clear a veto, there's a huge bar in most states. It's either 2/3 or 3/4 in most states to override a veto. Which means that 3/4 of that legislature, and give or take 3/4 of the people of Louisiana, think that this is a good idea, so much so that they're not going to recall their government official over the whims of somebody who probably wasn't elected by more than 50 to 55%. I don't know what the statistics are for this particular election, but I would not be surprised to find out that it's within the margin of error somewhere. During a relatively rare veto session, the House voted 75 to 23 to override the governor's objection on House Bill 648, which bans hormone treatments, puberty-blocking drugs, and other gender-affirming care for anybody under 18. The Senate later voted 28 to 11 to override the veto, and it's due to take effect on January 1st. Major medical organizations, including the AMA and the American Academy of Pediatrics, consider gender-affirming care to be medically necessary and potentially life-saving. Today I was overridden on my veto of a bill that was needlessly harms a very small population of vulnerable children, their families, and their healthcare professionals, Edwards said in a statement, adding that he expects the courts to throw out this unconstitutional bill. Well, we'll see. I'd like to see it if it actually gets thrown out at some point. So bring it forward. Have fun. In a similar vein here, coming out of Florida from Spectrum News 13, Florida education leaders consider restrictions to after-school activities. From Jeff Allen, the Florida Department of Education is considering several new measures at a meeting in Orlando on Wednesday, July 19th. One measure would further restrict what after-school activities can be held at schools and how students will be allowed to take part in these activities. Scarlett Saylor and Jacob Washuta are both members of the Boone High School's Queer and Ally Alliance. They prepared their remarks in opposition to the proposed new rule. We also need to prepare for the worst because we know that the legislation, regardless of what it says, will be used to target the queer community on campus. And we prepare for that because we know it will happen, said Saylor. The proposed rule would not just notify parents, but require parents to sign off permission for their students to attend any after-school event, which, by the way, was the norm when I was in school. Now, mind you, that was 20 years ago. But this is not a new concept by any stretch of the imagination. Anything after school, yes, I remember having to have a permission slip every single time. And that was in the late 90s and early 2000s. Yes, I know, I'm dating myself. Washuta says that would prevent students whose parents don't approve of who they are from taking parts in activities where they could get acceptance. I don't, and obviously I'm not going to copy paste out of the Discord, but there's nothing in my rules against quoting the Discord. I will I will come out and quote Midget B from the Discord earlier when I put this article in and says, "Oh no, we can't trans the kids in secret." I trolled him a little bit, but he was exactly on the nose with this one. Here's one. An interesting one, because again, and I actually probably should have put this up with the Uvalde thing, but the party in power is scared. They don't act like this when they're not scared. Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, before we watch this video, California 51, youngest member of Democratic House leadership. Where's California 51? #51st District. There we go. Looks like that is the area immediately north of San Diego. Anyway, the video here. I'm begging you, ignore the NRA that's paying you.
Gun violence is the #1 killer of kids and teens in America. For so many problems facing our country, we don't know what to do. We don't know exactly how to fix it. But gun violence is different. We know what to do. But Republicans lack the backbone to do it, and frankly, their justifications why aren't good enough. Bucking your party, alienating the NRA, or potentially risking your seat is worth it to save lives. And we can save lives by reinstating the federal assault weapons ban. The 1994 ban that was implemented when I was only 5 years old decreased gun massacres by 37%. And when that ban expired, gun massacres rose by 183%. Reinstating this ban would prevent parents from having to say their final goodbyes to their children. It would prevent the trauma we knowingly pass on to future generations, and it would prevent the never-ending what-ifs, if-onlys, and what-could-have-beens when thinking about the loved ones we've lost. So I urge my colleagues to do the right thing and reinstate the federal assault weapons ban. Gun violence is the #1 killer.
Define an assault weapon, please. Let's talk Disney, because this is interesting. And I've got a few articles on this one here, but we're going to start with a video from the Daily Wire.
All of Disney to Apple.
What?
This has been a rough year for Disney. Their streaming business is expected to register a loss of $800 million, and Disney Plus lost 4 million subscribers just last quarter. So where will Disney go from here? Follow the Daily Wire to stay updated. Is this actually happening? Disney CEO Bob Iger has put Freeform, ABC, and FX up for sale, and possibly Disney Plus next. Apparently, these streaming services never really picked up like the company quite thought they would. But the tea gets even juicier, because rumor has it, Bob Iger may end up selling all of Disney to Apple.
What?
This has been a rough year for Disney. Their streaming business is expected to register a loss of $800 million, and Disney Plus lost 4 million subscribers just last quarter.
So there's a few things to go on with this. Number one, taking some of the biggest IPs. I thought I had an article up here about this. Apparently I did it because I wanted to do it for things I like and things I hate tomorrow. But as of right now, it looks like Lucasfilms is getting set to be sold back to George Lucas, which, oh please God, please, but to go Freeform and ABC, which I mean are pretty much one and the same. ABC and then cable ABC, as what those two are, and FX plus ESPN. To get rid of all of those, in and of itself, is saying that they're doing, like, they're having a hard time. They've talked about selling the entire service of Disney Plus off, which, given their partnership with Hulu, would mean that it would probably become Hulu Plus. And I wonder how they would honor the subscribers there. Now, I am an outlier off of this in that there's enough retro stuff on Disney Plus that I actually enjoy it. Seeing some of the stuff that I either missed as a kid because we didn't get the Disney Channel till later, or some of the stuff that just was there. Like one of my favorite Disney movies, Stepsister from Planet Weird, is on Disney Plus. I like looking back at that and feeling the nostalgia of that one. But I've never been in a position where I've had to pay for that, because my sister has young children. So, and I think that a lot of the families, for the most part, are going to hold on to it for now, especially like my sister's family. Even if the subscribers are dropping like this woman is claiming that they are, we're probably not going to drop that, because My nephew, as long as Lucasfilms is still in Disney's hands, is a massive Star Wars fan. So they're going to want to hold on to that. And I think he's a big Marvel fan too. Well, yeah, I know he is because he was a big Spider-Man fan. So that's probably going to stick around for at least a little while until, and who knows, maybe Iger will get rid of the Marvel Cinematic Universe too, and we can possibly get a decent Captain America movie again. That would be fantastic. Let's read a little bit here from the New York Post. Disney CEO Bob Iger in damage control mode over possible sale of ABC and ESPN. By the way, the ABC thing. ABC has been a part of Disney since I was a kid. All the sitcoms that I used to watch on TGIF on ABC, there is no coincidence that all of them took a trip to Disney during their runs. Because it was a big promotional thing for some of the most popular television programs on TV at the time. They could slip in references to Disney World when the Lamberts or the Winslows or the Matthews all went out to Disney World, and then the kids watched the show and said, oh, hey, we want to go to Disney because Corey and Eric went, or because Steve Urkel went, or because the Fullers, or not the Fullers, the Tanners went. The ABC thing has been a thing for a long time. The ESPN thing, I think, is a little bit more recent, but the ABC has been a long, long time. Disney's Bob Iger was forced to do damage control after spilling plans to possibly sell or part of money-bleeding channels ABC and ESPN, the Post has learned. Iger, who last week got a 2-year extension to run the company after retaking the reins last year, huddled with senior leaders of Disney's TV properties for Tuesday, according to a source with knowledge. Iger met with senior leaders of the television group and reaffirmed his commitment to the value of the businesses, and also ABC News, the source said, adding that he was doing some damage control and reverting back to the previous talking points. The meeting came days after the Disney boss made some uncharacteristically candid remarks to CNBC's David Faber, in which he said Disney's traditional TV business may not be core to the entertainment giant. Among his comments was that Iger would be open to finding a strategic partner for ESPN. Rumors have also swirled he may spin off ABC. The source said Iger's undisciplined, off-message remarks last Thursday sent shockwaves with Disney, which along with ABC and ESPN owns FX and National Geographic. The head honcho told CNBC last week he did not anticipate the degree to which legacy television networks would be struggling, and that he would be open to selling or spinning off Disney's cable networks. He added that he has had discussions with potential investors about buying a minority stake in ESPN, though he would not specify. So, again, massive if true. I don't know if this is going to be or come to be. I mean, it's hard to imagine Disney being anything other than a major media conglomerate. Just because of my age and my age group. But apparently, they might not be anymore. So we'll see what happens there. Are you ready to part ways with some more of your tax money from Breaking 911? Watch Press Secretary announce new $1.3 billion aid package for the Ukraine.
Now turning to Ukraine, some news there. The Department of Defense announced a new security assistance package to support the people of Ukraine as they bravely defend their country. This package includes more critical air defense capabilities, such as National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems and additional systems to help Ukraine shoot down Russian and Ukrainian drones. The package also includes additional artillery rounds and mine-clearing equipment, as well as unmanned aerial systems and equipment that will help Ukraine better protect its ports. These latter capabilities will become increasingly important, especially now that Russia has pulled out of the grain deal and has renewed attacks on port cities, as we have seen over the past 2 days. The weapons and equipment we are announcing today are being procured by the Defense Department for Ukraine through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative as part of our commitment to strengthen Ukraine's military over the near and also long term. As President Biden made clear in Vilnius last week, the United States is committed to supporting Ukraine alongside our allies and partners now and for the long future as we head into the future, clearly.
There you go. $1.3 billion more for the Ukraine. Aren't you excited? Some presidential news. From The Blaze, Vivek Ramaswamy names 2 Republican senators on list of potential Supreme Court picks. From Alex Nitzberg. Republican presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy released a list of people who he would consider nominating to the Supreme Court if elected. 2 of the figures on his list are sitting GOP senators. Ramaswamy listed 9 figures as high court candidates, including Ted Cruz and Mike Lee. You know, I don't really care for Ted Cruz, but I'm not 100% opposed to him being on the Supreme Court either. Think about this, you never have to see another Ted Cruz campaign video. He's appointed for life. Silver linings. And I do, as much as I disagree with him legislatively, think that his interpretation of existing law and existing constitutionality is in high regard. I don't think that he is living to his full potential as a senator. Mike Lee, on the other hand, I don't know that I see him in the Supreme Court. But Ted I could see. He also listed 7 appellate court candidates, so he is going through with this as if he's going to win. He's not going to win, but he is actually putting a plan out there. I think he plans to run again, or be in a vice presidential spot, which wouldn't be the worst decision in the world either. Some economic news outside of the dedicated economic field. From CNN, JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon isn't a fan of Bidenomics. From Elizabeth Buchwald. Well, a lot of us aren't either. So, Jamie Dimon isn't sold on Bidenomics. I'd be careful about that, said Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, a reference to President Biden's economics theory that rejects trickle-down policies in favor of focusing on the middle class. No, that is not at all what that does. It rejects trickle-down, which isn't a real thing, in favor of buying votes. Hey, have some free stuff and I'll pay off your student loans. Vote for me, man. The president claims that the middle-class focus is driving the force behind the U.S. economy's success. But Dimon is not convinced. It's a tough question to answer, said the head of the nation's largest bank, when asked if Bidenomics is as successful as the president makes it out to be. In an interview with The Economist released on Tuesday, Dimon classified Bidenomics as largely as industrial policy, a strategy that specifically encourages or subsidizes particular industries, such as manufacturing. He said he's in favor of some industrial policy lately, for the first time in his life, but only as it relates to the national security and competitiveness. There shouldn't be a social policy around that, he said, adding that it shouldn't be political, it should be purely economic. And the $5 trillion stimulus the government authorized, including Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan to counter the economic effects of the pinko pox, was excessive and is causing inflation, Dimon said. Spot on, Dimon. I don't agree with you on much, but spot on that one. And who's there to go back in and run out and put her 2 cents in? Well, boo-hoo, says Chief Spreading Bull. The whole point of Bidenomics is to make our economy work for working people. No, again, the whole point of Bidenomics is to buy votes. Not just Wall Street CEOs. God, I can't stand that woman. Witchy Chick says it cost me $75 to get 2 packages of cheese, lunch meat, a green pepper, 5 Roma tomatoes, 3 cans of black beans, lettuce, and small container of cottage cheese. Work for working people, shut the fuck up. I want to know where Witchy Chick is buying groceries, because that sounds like a discount for that shopping list. That's like $120 here. Yo, little Donnie, Hellboy actor Ron Perlman gets in on the action. Be careful, motherfucker. Ron Perlman deletes video threatening studio executives' home. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. From Andrew Shapados. Yo, little Donnie. Actor Ron Perlman of Sons of Anarchy fame. Well, I didn't know he was in that. I guess I've never seen Sons of Anarchy, so I wouldn't have any reason of knowing why he was in that. I thought he was just in Hellboy. And of course the narrator of the Fallout series. War never changes. That guy. Actor Ron Perlman shared and then deleted a video which he appeared to threaten the home of an unnamed Hollywood exec due to anonymous comments from the individual about the writer and actor strikes in the entertainment industry. The first joint strike between the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and the Writers Guild of America since '60 was well underway, and executives have stated they're ready for the long haul. As reported by Timcast Cringe, Perlman's comments stem from a report in the outlet Deadline that stated the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers is going to wait until the 6-month mark before even beginning to entertain more talks with the Writers Guild. I'm going to move this up here, by the way. Not Halloween precisely, but late October for sure, as the intention said an unnamed producer. The endgame is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses, a different studio exec told Deadline. Perlman, perhaps channeling his role as the president of a biker gang in the hit show Sons of Anarchy, appeared to make threats to the unnamed executive in a later deleted Instagram video. And it does look like we were able to get that screen capped and saved before it got deleted. Let's listen.
One thing before I get off this. The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial, some of it is karma, and some of it is just figuring out who the fuck said that. And we know who said that, and where he fucking lives. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 fucking million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker. Be really careful. Because that's the kind of shit that stirs shit up. Peace out.
Perlman posted a follow-up video in which he claimed he didn't wish anybody any harm. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, that's... Oh yeah, you definitely didn't wish anybody harm. There's a lot of fucking ways to lose your house. Fuck you. This is the best that Hollywood can put forward. And you gotta love it, too, when they commit a felony on video and then get away with it because it got deleted. even though it got saved. Thank you, by the way, to the quick-thinking person who decided to go out and get that saved right away. For posterity, of course. And the last one that we will do today, I think that the NDAA is getting bumped, by the way. We'll see. I'm going to keep it on for the rest of the week and see if we get to it by end week, because I know that we're going to start slowing that news down because we want people to go out and enjoy their weekends. Well, let's grab this one from ABC News. Actors Union, Hollywood studios squabble over which side to blame as strike enters fifth day, from Bill Hutchinson. As the Hollywood paralyzing strike by the SAG went into its fifth day, Tuesday, the studios and producers accused the union of mischaracterizing the labor negotiations. The Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers released a statement claiming the Actors Union walked away from $1 billion deal. SAG-AFTRA continues to mischaracterize the negotiations with AMPTP. Not only does its press release deliberately distort the offers made by AMPTP, it also fails to include the proposals offered verbally to SAG-AFTRA. On July 12th, the studios and producers said in a statement released on Monday. The AMPTP statement quickly came in response to one issued by SAG-AFTRA on Monday, in which the union accused the studios and producers of taking advantage of workers. Here's the simple truth. We're up against a system where those in charge of multi-billion-dollar media conglomerates are rewarded for exploiting workers, the union statement reads. SAG-AFTRA's national board voted Thursday to go on strike after it said negotiations that started June 7th broke down. The union's 160,000 members formed picket lines Friday morning from Hollywood to New York. Meanwhile, we don't get blasted with any new garbage television. What's the downside here, by the way? Do you sometimes feel like somebody's watching you? I had a couple of people watching me. Kind of fell off at the end. But of course, we also lost connection earlier, so. And a reminder that the entire video in its full form, because I have been recording, will be put back up to YouTube without the cuts, thanks to Spectrum. Thank you, Raven, by the way. Here's the simple truth. We're up against a system where those in charge of multi-billion-dollar media conglomerates are rewarded for exploiting workers, the union statement read. Dude, I have been on the Walk of Fame. You guys are not getting exploited. Some of your extras, perhaps. All right, let's see. The union's contract expired at 11:15 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. So we've got no new television. We've got no new bad writing. Is the Mogwai says many seasons of The Bachelor I see, many more episodes of The Kardashians. Are those affected by the strike? I have no idea. I have not had network television in a long time. So I wouldn't know what's going on with that, but that is what we have going on for that. And with that, we're going to conclude our news show. We will pick up with NDAA over the end of the week and a couple other news stories that we're going to have to cut for the night. But we're going to finish out talking about something that I am thankful for because, well, that's the right thing to do. We finish out Wednesdays on things that restore my faith in humanity, things I'm thankful for. It's been a wild week. It really has. I was supposed to be working by myself all week. I wound up not working by myself, thankfully. But that was what the original plan was, and I did volunteer for that. But it's definitely been crazy, but one of the things that it's pushed is, more advancement coming off of where I'm at right now. I am miles and leaps and bounds ahead of where I was last year at this time. And this was about the time that I was starting to look for a new home and a new job, because with inflation continuing to be on the rise, and it's still on the rise no matter what they come out and tell you, it's still 3% up. If you're sitting here and you're not even allowed to have a raise, you're going backwards at some point. So I've come forward a long way. And again, I've always said one of the most thankful things that I've had here right now is that I get to be closer with my family. And I was looking at other markets. There were a lot of different markets that I was looking at. I was looking down in Iowa and places, down in Georgia, down in Tennessee, Florida, out in East Tennessee possibly, and some of the states around there. But I wound up having a job where I could come back out, interview, get everything done, while I was close to home and close enough to where I could just make a day trip out of it and get everything done and going. So it's brought me here. It's brought me closer to faith. Obviously, I've been able to go back to church a little bit more and feel... I don't know if I'm going to stay with the church that I'm at, but I also have some options in the area that I'm in. But just, it's not like my last church where people reached out to me in the aisle and said, hey, we're glad to see you here. It's just, at this point, it's if you're not in the club, they don't even acknowledge you. So there's that aspect to it, but there are 5 other churches of my denomination around the city, so I can go into the city and probably go find 2 or 3 more, so there's going to be that aspect to it. So it really has been. I'm still thankful for the fact that, we're starting to pull into double digits on viewership. I don't know why it says error to subscribe to you. I don't know either. You can check me out on other platforms if it's giving an issue with that. Twitch.tv/jedgar101, rumble.com/jedgar101. There are other platforms out there, but thank you, by the way, for coming out to subscribe. That's awesome. I don't know why there's an error either. It's the first time I've heard of that, but thank you for that. And there you go. Something else I'm thankful for. Raven looking to subscribe to me. Thank you for that. dlive.tv/jedgar101 is another one too. Join the Discord. The announcements are always out there. If that's what, if you want to be a part of the conversation. But with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. Let's throw some outro music up and finish off for the day. So, thanks everybody who came by for both of the streams. Remember, we got cut off midstream. A reminder that this stream will be up in its entirety on Spotify. You can look up on Spotify, Contemporary with J. Edgar. The with J. Edgar is important at the end of it, and you will find the same screen that you're about to see at the end of this program here. I will upload the full video, the recorded video, not the live stream, to both YouTube and Rumble. Unfortunately, I can't do it to Twitch or DLive, but I will upload them both to YouTube and Rumble. There will be links to them on the Twitter, twitter.com/jedgar102, and in the Discord as well. If you guys want to go check the entire thing, including me cursing my luck over being cut off and dropping stream in the middle of it. And yes, I got a little bit spicy the second time. I was a little bit pissed. But otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Probably be a little bit after 6 again because I'm going to be by myself for most of the day tomorrow as well, so we'll have that. But I do look forward to seeing you here for that. Take care, have a good night, hug your family, grab some dinner, call your friends, and we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I am J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.